Good afternoon, everyone. Today's date's July 20th, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. The approximate time is 1:37. Welcome to the MPO Policy Committee meeting. We're here at the City Council Chambers, 1110 Houston Street. And we're going to go ahead and get this started. If we could get the called meeting to order. We're going to have our chairperson to do our roll call, please.
Yes,
Mr. Juan Mendive.
Yes, Ms. Briones will help call in roll.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pete Sines, Councilmember Ruben Gutierrez.
Present.
Councilmember Dr. Marte Martinez.
Here.
Councilmember Vanessa Perez.
On her way.
Judge Tano Tijerina.
Present.
Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez. Commissioner John Galo. Mr. David Salazar.
Present.
Mr. Humberto Tito Gonzalez.
Present.
For the record, you do have a quorum.
Very good. We do have a quorum and motion to excuse people. I think some of them are going to be coming in late, so I will go ahead and, for the record, call their name as they come in. But as of right now, motion to excuse.
Second.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There's no citizen comments. We're going to go ahead and go to 4 items requiring policy committee action. Item 4A, approval of minutes for the meeting held on June 15, 2022. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. B, receive public testimony and approve resolution number MPO 2022-06, adopting the FY 2023 Unifying Planning Work Program, UPWP. Do we have it's been open, or do we need to close it? How do
It's
we
open
do
and
that?
we'll need to close it today.
Motion.
Has it been open for 10 days?
It was opened already for 20 days, and now we need to close it formally.
Very good. I have a
adopt,
motion by
correct?
Dr. Martinez.
So it would be motion to close and adopt the 2023 Unified Planning Work Program?
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion, a second. Any other questions or comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. Very good. C, item 4C, receive public testimony and initiate a 45-day public review and comment period for the draft public participation plan. For the record, if I may, I have Vanessa Perez and Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez, Councilwoman Vanessa Perez and Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez. For the record, they are here now. So item 4C, I'll let them catch their breath, and we are on item 4C. Receive public testimony and initiate a 45-day public review and comment period for the draft public participation plan.
Yes, thank you, Judge. We do have a presentation for you today about this public participation plan. It's been an ongoing effort. It's a federally required document. Julio from our staff will give a brief presentation. A 45-day comment period is required. So after today's presentation, we're asking the committee to initiate that comment period. I'll go ahead and let Julio Nino from our MPO staff provide a brief presentation.
Good afternoon, Julio Niño for the record. All right, for the 2022 Public Participation Plan, the background says it's fairly mandated, and this is supposed to replace the previously adopted version from May 15, 2017. This participation plan adheres to federal requirements, guidelines, and expectations of public involvement during the development of the transportation planning process. More importantly, it also adheres to it complies with the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, including the Executive Order 12898, Environmental Justice, and Executive Order 13166, Limited English Proficiency. The plan is going to outline the procedures, tools, techniques, and expectations for public outreach and education transportation issues as outlined by federal legislation. The purpose of it, the gist of it is going to be to provide effective and inclusive public engagement in the transportation planning process. It's also, the overall objective is to ensure that the process will be proactive and provide complete information, timely public notice, full access to key information, and opportunities for early and continuing involvement as per Title 23 CFR 450.316B. When it's environmental justice, the main points of environmental justice to identify and address disproportionately high and adverse effects of the agency's programs, policies, and activities on minority and low-income populations to achieve and equitable distribution of benefits and burdens. It's also meant to ensure that the full and fair participation by all potentially affected communities in the transportation industry progress will be equally represented. And here's an example of some of the items on the public participation plan, the Triple P. For limited English proficiency, federal legislation requires that federal agencies work to ensure that recipients of federal financial assistance provide meaningful access to their LEP applicants and beneficiaries. Some of the tools that the FHWA has for us allow us to use census data and to be able to create these maps and some other infographics so that we are able to plan our outreach activities. The summary of changes is included in this presentation. Some of the key changes are in the Triple P developmental process, which is going to include measures of effectiveness so that we are able to better document and measure both quantitatively and qualitatively our outreach strategies. Communication process has also added a BPI, which is the virtual public involvement, in the case that we have to go back to virtual meetings for example, like during the pandemic. The goal of the Triple P is to foster and create accessible opportunities for meaningful public involvement through the public outreach strategies and make sure that the information is relevant and it's easier to understand. The measures of effectiveness, as you can see on this slide, it includes qualitative, which is going to ask participants in public in our outreach efforts why they decided to come to a specific meeting or a specific outreach opportunity. For the quantitative, it's more of addressing things such as public involvement activities, the number of attendees, the data, the media advertisements used. For the MPO website, interactive databases gives us a chance to let people contact us via our webpage, also to sign up for the interested parties list. The public comment and polls and survey data is things that we're going to have as an exit type of survey or polls for our those that are participating in public outreach events. And here's some of the examples that we have on our website. As you can see on the top, just something simple where you access, where you can see that there's an event going on and they can click there. At the bottom, we see a request for public comment. This is through Google Forms, and this is embedded in our website. When it closes, they're no longer able to submit any more comments. Some more of our measure of effectiveness. We're looking at our metrics to see the number of hits that we get on our website. We also have access to maps, interactive maps. Citizens should also be able to, through the Triple P, they should be able to easily understand some of the information, such as the different types of revisions to planning documents that would trigger the need for a comment and review period. A rundown of the different documents that we have for the MPO and the comment periods that they each have for an update or an amendment to those documents as per federal regulations. We'll also include committee meetings, and we do let them know that it's subject to change. Examples of public outreach activities. Some of these include information database, which allows important information from various sources to be inputted, sorted, and easily retrieved. For VPI, as I mentioned, they will enable LW Campo to expand its reach, and it will allow people to interact with information related to the transportation planning process at a time and or place of their choice. As I mentioned, the example was during the pandemic. We do follow state and federal guidelines as they authorize, which means that they're going to adhere to publicly express their views to agency representatives and other citizens participating in the hearing. For public meeting notice, we also have the differences between posting the meeting agendas for public meetings when we post the newspaper and the way we post for internet and on social media, such as you can see here, meeting agenda and then public notice for invitation for public comment. And currently, we're working towards getting from steps 2 to 3.
Colleagues, any questions or comments?
So this is, if I may?
Yes, sir.
Judge, thank you. So this is basically opening a 45-day public review of changes or possible changes to our public participation plan.
Yes.
And so this is kind of an overview of our plan, and so we just want to make sure that the community can engage in how we engage them.
That's correct. And also, it was very meaningful for us to do this update. And, we did a lot of best practices research to see what other MPOs were doing, right? So it's important to us to look at that, to make sure we're, meeting all the federal guidelines, those regulations. So we did pretty much in-depth analysis with all this. And, this plan, we did all in-house, we put it together. It's lengthier than the last one we had, it's the last update, but we did expand some things like Julio mentioned. For example, on how we evaluate our outreach strategies. We outline more outreach strategies because you can't always use the same one. So this is going to function as a framework, as a guide for staff on how we engage the public. That's a very critical part of the planning process.
Judge, when I tell people that I'm going to an MPO meeting, the vast majority of the time they say, what? They don't necessarily know. And so I do think that it's important to engage the public in a new way or in a better way, because ultimately a lot of the decisions that are being made here are going to have an impact in their daily commute, in their lives, in the roads that are built, and the grants that are available. And the majority of the public, I don't think, knows what the MPO is, and maybe they don't feel that they have the necessary input. And so I applaud you for doing this. I think it's very necessary and overdue. I know it's been 3 years, but I think even back then, I think we need to have a little bit more engagement with the public. And so thank you for doing this. And I guess the action that you need from us is just to open.
Yes, to open the comment period. And during that comment period, what we want to do is continue to engage the community. And we're looking to maybe do a workshop or two to go out in the community and show them this plan as well and get feedback from them on how we can best engage them.
I'd like to make that motion to open up.
Very well.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. I just have a comment. Being in Spanish, is it pretty standard, or is it going above and beyond, which we usually do?
This, what we're doing right
I
now?
noticed that it was in Spanish as well.
Yeah, well, we're saying that we're going to have documents in Spanish, and when we post something about a public comment, we're doing that in Spanish.
But is that pretty standard across Texas, is what I'm asking?
Yeah, it would be pretty standard, but there are certain things where we need to provide that translation for certain documents, because like our limited English proficiency plan calls for that.
I'm trying to applaud you guys, that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do. I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be rude here.
There's definitely
I'm
things
actually
we're
trying to
going-
applaud you, I just didn't know
Yeah.
it was standard across Texas to do that.
Yeah, it depends on the community, right? If it's you have a predominantly Hispanic community with more Spanish speakers, then it'll be more standard.
Great job, okay.
Judge, may I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So I noticed you said there was a component that allowed for virtual participation. Can you just kind of go over that real quickly, what that looks like for the public?
Yes, ma'am. In the case that there is an event and the Texas Open Meetings Act would authorize it, then we would use their guidelines, and it would be basically allowing presentations, and if it's a public hearing or a public meeting, so long as the public is able to participate. So they would be able to chime in during their public comment time virtually.
Does that also allow for these policy meetings for them to make virtual comments?
Or these, yes, at the appropriate time, which would be at the time that the chair asks for public comments.
The way,
So they can, instead of being here, they can send in a public comment on any item that we're talking about?
yeah, that's being allowed right now, and we would read it here. That is allowed, like when we have like for this, we're gonna open a comment period for this plan. We open that 45-day comment period, and they can submit online. We have a Google form that's provided there, and also for the meeting items. What we did mention in this plan was just that, we'll also modify it whenever there's changes to like the Texas Open Meetings Act. As long as it's being allowed by the Texas Open Meetings Act, we can go ahead and do that.
Well,
Because I don't see where, I'm sorry, Judge.
no, I think it's important what you just asked, and I was actually gonna add to that a little bit. It also depends, that's not the rule. It's just whatever the chair is actually wanting, is that correct?
To allow, yeah, you could allow, there's.
Because the chair
it's
could
not
say
required.
yes or no, depending on, I want them to read comments from outside, or they have to be present. I would think that that's the chair's,
There's nothing binding us at this moment that we need
correct.
to receive a public
That's what I was
comment.
trying to say.
That we have to accept those public comments virtually.
Prerogative
for
of the
these
chair.
meetings. Yeah, at this point, because there's nothing else binding us to do that.
So Judge, if I may, so you're saying that, because like, for example, I'm looking at the MPO policy meeting public notice, and I don't see anywhere on here where it says, would you like to submit a public comment, and then in person or virtual, and then giving them the option. So how would somebody know that they are able to make a public comment and reserve that right that they have for their however many, 3 minutes, I believe do we honor
Yeah,
that?
and a perfect example, it's like I believe the way the city council does it, the mayor allows public comment to be read even though they're not here. Across the street where we're at, I don't allow that. You have to be, in order for you to have public comments, you have to be standing right there. And I think it's important. So I think it just depends on the chair, but I just wanted to ask that question too, 'cause it's a good question, actually.
At this point, it really depends on the item. So for example, since we did a notice on the newspaper to receive public testimony, they could have sent something, because we have an email address where you can send your comments. But it depends on the item. If it's just a regular public comment, like someone coming to speak on an item that's not on the agenda, right now, we don't allow for that to be submitted virtually.
And if I may, what we're also trying to establish is that in the case that we do, that we are capable to do so.
I mean, I don't know, Judge, I know you all do things differently, but just in the era that we're in, like with COVID, I think it's been helpful for us to have input from people who can't come at 5:30, or even with us at 1:30. Maybe they can't come in, but they would like to submit a comment. I don't know how we would proceed with that, or how we would, I guess leave it up
I
to the
wouldn't
chair.
mind that. I'm not the chair, I'm the co-chair. I'm the assistant chair, I guess you wanna call me whatever, second chair. But the only thing that I would recommend to the committee or to Mr. Mendiva is, I don't want any fake, names and stupid questions being read. It would have to, if I would be sitting up here, it'd have to be something having to do with MPO. That's all that I would require. But she's correct. If somebody wants to do it that way, and that's the way they wanna do it, it's fine.
Right, and it does become a problem, as you all know. We've had that issue, and we have staff going over it over and over and over, but sometimes there are hundreds of comments, and we're gonna miss one or two, and it's a big issue. It really does become an issue.
Well, I'd like to add, actually, in all fairness, from the time that we actually motioned to allow those comments to be read virtually, we only actually had like 1 or 2 pranksters.
right.
And so it's, from all the meetings we've had,
All
there
it
could have
takes
been
is 1 or
more.
2 pranksters to look pretty bad, though.
No, I know, but that's more on them, like, playing around with the system, and we could exclude, I guess, those fake comments maybe, but I don't know how we would handle that, but for the most part, we don't get hundreds and hundreds of comments every meeting. It's usually like 1 or 2 on maybe a specific item. So generally, the most part, most people, they don't comment. And if they do, it's because they're passionate about that particular item. So I haven't really seen it to be a problem or like an abuse of the process or anything. I personally haven't seen that in the year and a half that I've been here.
If I may ask, well, excuse my tardiness, are you just talking about,
Excuse me real quick, if I could have the record reflect that Commissioner Galo is present.
are we talking about general comment, the general thing? Because like here, we're opening up public testimony and we got 45 days.
That's exactly what
If I may, if it's for,
They call their comments by written or however.
Well, but we're talking about changing the way we conduct the MPO meetings to allow for some virtual input, I think, going forward, right? That's part of this change.
only if the state of Texas authorizes us to. And so in the case that they do authorize it, we're ready, willing, and able to do so. And we do have, in the document itself, it does say that we do take significant comments. So it is specified on there. If it's, say for instance, for this specific plan too, when we receive comments online on our Google form, we do sift through them, we do read them, and if they are significant enough and in line with the document, that we can take them, we will.
And that's
Not there.
specific. Julio's talking specific to a document like this. I think what Council Member Pettis is mentioning is just to be able to accept public comments for this meeting, for the public meetings. Prior to
For the
meeting
agenda
virtually
item.
the way City Council does it right now. And we know City Council allows it, but like Judge is saying, the
No,
county
that,
doesn't
yeah,
allow
that's what
it.
I'm saying, I cannot,
Yeah,
since
I
I'm
mean,
not the chair,
we can-
he's the chair, that's the way he allows it, that's the way he runs his meetings, so be it, you know? I
We
mean,
can ask the
that's
chair, what he thinks. What we do have on our website, anybody at any time can provide comments. So we have Google Forms on there with any concerns, any issues. We have had some before. We had a gentleman not too long ago just send us a comment asking us to look more at like transit studies, and he was coming from out of state, so he was telling us what they do in other states. So we responded to him. So we do get that on a regular basis. So you have those opportunities outside.
Thank you.
Very good, I have a motion, I have a second, any other questions, comments? Comments and questions are closed, any opposed? Motion carries, thank you, good communication there. Item D, 4D is discussion and possible action on submitting a joint application with the Webb County City Laredo Regional Mobility Authority and the City of Laredo for the U.S. Department of Transportation Safe Streets and Roads for All Grant Program and any other matters incident thereto. Any questions?
So in your packet, you do have a fact sheet about what this grant is. It's a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation. At the last meeting, we were asked to bring back an item to take some action on this. So what we're looking at is to partner with the RMA and the City of Laredo to submit a joint application. If the city or the RMA applies by themselves, the most they can apply for is $1 million. But you can actually apply up to $5 million if you partner up, right, or you're partnering with an MPO. The City of Laredo already took action on Monday's council meeting to partner, to collaborate in this grant, and they're paying for half of the cost to prepare the grant. And the RMA this morning at their meeting as well, they went ahead and also authorized the participation, and they were paying for the other half to prepare the grant application. The MPO, we're asking for participation. Since the source of money is federal, we are not participating right now at this time financially, but we are gonna help with staff time to help them put the application together. And it's gonna also strengthen the applications once you see that you have three different
Move to
parties.
Second. There you go. Motion second, any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Motion carries. Item E, discussion and possible action on the Char Ruthinger Road project.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Any closer?
Good afternoon, Justice. The project status update will once again, as last month, be given by Mr. Tito Gonzalez of our department.
Good afternoon, everybody. Humberto Gonzalez, TxDOT. Yeah, we're still on track. So the update is we're still on track for an August 2023 letting. As we had planned, we had a meeting last week with the City of Laredo, trying to just finalize, get the right-of-way footprint finalized. We will be submitting that over to the city within the next month, and then they can proceed with their right-of-way acquisition for the project. So we're on schedule.
1 year.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll see. Okay. Any other questions, comments on that? All right, let's move on. Item
Crossing
5,
my fingers, Judge.
and feet and everything else. Item 5, reports and presentations, no action required. Item A, status report by the Regional Mobility Authority, RMA. Mr. Jed Brown.
Good afternoon, Judge, members of the MPO, Jed Brown, Chair of the RMA. In your packet would be the information on the 9 active projects that we're working on. There's a lot going on right now. One that I see that's going to actually get completed soon would be Los Presidentes Phase 1 and 2A. We work with TxDOT where they're doing work on the Excel Diesel lane along Cuatro Vientos. That job should be done in September. So we get to have an actual ribbon cutting pretty soon. That's pretty exciting for me because that'll be the first real roadway project that we have partners in that's going to be done. So that's a really big deal for me. Springfield, a lot of exciting things there. I see more money coming in. I know TxDOT's got funds available to do the connection at Loop 20. Phase 3 is moving along. It's 65% complete. That's a big deal. Springfield, I think, will be done sooner than later. That's exciting. We just talked about the Safe Streets and Roads Grants for All. We're excited to participate with the MPO in the city. I think it's a heck of a deal that we're going to work on this together. We're going to get time only from the MPO, no dollars, so it's not costing the MPO anything. The last one's on Vallecillo. We received information last week that Vallecillo was not in the draft UTP. That unfortunately caught us a little bit by surprise because we were hoping that it would be there. What that means, After we realized it wasn't in the draft UTP, I had a conversation the next morning with David Salazar and with Tito Gonzalez about that. They were very helpful and informative and explained to me the process. We have until August 8th to get it added back in. What that means is we're making a lot of calls. We've had meetings with Congressman Cuellar, Representative Richard Raymond, Representative Tracy King, and Senator Zaffarini. We've had calls being made to the governor's office. We're going to work hard to try and get it added back in by August 8th. The gap is now smaller because Congressman Cuellar has brought in $3 million to the project. So instead of a $17.5 million ask, we're down to 14.5. So we're whittling away. We're down to about 35% funds that we need to close the gap to finish it, meaning we have 65% committed to the project. If for some reason we're not successful getting that, you may see me back before you to start begging you for Category 7 funds after a char is done.
Can I interrupt you? Is there any way to phase it? Can you do it to Sarah and then, do the?
We haven't really looked at that. I mean, I guess that's something we could consider. Sarah's not very far in. I would think we'd pick maybe a further point if we did something like
I'm saying
that.
from Mines Road to Sarah.
Yes, sir.
So isn't that's towards the other end, isn't it? And that's,
It is.
that's the main connection, no?
It is it's the closest connection to the Mines Road, but I think, and I haven't looked at what percentage that falls from west to east towards 35. I'd guess it's maybe 40% of the way over. I mean, anything's possible. But we would sure like to get the entire distance built at one time, just like is happening with the char.
So, I'm trying to remember the map. So if you came from La Bota down Vallecillo, you hit Sarah, take a right, then you hit Killam, then you can get to 35?
You could do that, yes, sir.
I mean, that's a start, if we can get it started. And
Yes, sir.
The, not being on the draft, UTP, was that oversight on our part, or what was it?
No, as it was explained to me by
Lack
the
of funding?
district engineer, is Vallecillo was the only Category 12 project this district office submitted for consideration. And when the TPP division scored Vallecillo against other projects that were in Category 12 funding, we came up a little bit short. We had a good presentation this morning by TxDOT at our board meeting, and I looked at it, and there was one particular slide in there that's the formula they used to come up with the scoring. And in my mind, and maybe I think somewhat selfishly, Vallecillo checked every box. And then at the bottom, there was a really important box, which is local support, specifically MPO. The resolution we have with the MPO couldn't be any stronger. So we're trying to get to the bottom of the scoring. And we're asking, it's not something that may be easy to get, but we are going to get to the bottom and understand why we missed out. I think we had a really good chance this year, and it's not done. We have till August 8th. We're going to keep, I feel like I don't have another job building apartments. I feel like my job is I can appreciate what you all do as a volunteer, but there's a lot of work to be done still between now and August 8th.
That $3 million is gonna disappear with inflation.
We got to pull the trigger quickly.
I know,
Yes,
and
sir.
if we can start that, maybe that phase and get that done, at least that gives Green Ranch, all the people out there in your area, some kind of relief, because I mean, it still won't be completed for how long, once you started?
Right now, 2027. These things take so long. No, I know. If I built apartments the way roads get built, I would have been broke 10 years ago. I mean, it just.
That'd be no apartments.
These things take so long to get them up and going. I mean, y'all have watched that with the char. I'm seeing it firsthand with Vallecillo.
Yeah.
But we do, if I come back in, we're looking at $14.5 million. That's 2 years of Cat 7 funds. We're not asking for 5 or 6 or 7 years. We'd be asking for 2, but I don't want to come back. I want to get it from Austin. Indirectly, I guess Cat 7 does come from Austin, but it's at you all's discretion. So we're going to keep fighting hard to try and get it Cat 12 and keep making calls and say a few prayers and hopefully have some good news at some point. So I'm here to answer any questions as long as Dr. Martinez doesn't ask me about Springfield.
So, about Springfield. No, it's okay. We'll talk later.
Yes.
Good answer. All right, any other questions, other than Springfield? All right, let's move on. Update on the timeline for the Laredo, this is 5B. Update on the timeline for the Laredo Webb County Area MPO 2022 Transportation Alternatives Set Aside TASA Program Call for Projects.
Thank you all. For the record, Juan Mendive, MPO Interim Director. Just going to give a quick overview on what we're doing with the TA set-aside program. So you all know this is going to be coming your way in a few months, maybe next month or in September, but I'm going to give you an overview of the work we've been doing with this. The Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program, this is money that comes from the federal government through the Surface Transportation Block Grant, right? And it's set aside for alternative transportation projects in urban areas with populations over 200,000. These funds are distributed to the MPOs, and the MPOs have to develop a competitive process for selecting these projects. The funds can be used for projects such as pedestrian, bicycle facilities, recreational trails, safe routes to schools, streetscaping, traffic calming techniques, among others, right? I believe you can even use them for like stormwater improvements. The eligible entities are local governments, so the city of Laredo, Webb County, city of Rio Bravo, since they're in our MPO boundary, our regional transportation authorities, transit agencies, the Metro, natural resource or public land agencies, school districts, local education agencies or schools, tribal government, and now with the new guidance from the federal government through the IIIJ, we have the nonprofit entities can now apply directly. Before they had to have a local sponsor. So this is what we're proposing for this call for projects. Like I mentioned, the MPOs have to develop a competitive call for projects. We have had guidelines that were done back in 2016 when we've done these projects. Are you all trying to get the slides up?
We got it.
You got 'em? Okay. So we have done this before, but there's new guidance that has come out. So we're updating our guidelines. So like I mentioned, the call for projects is required. The policy committee must approve the guidelines and authorize the call for projects. The potential funding availability that we're looking at is $2,143,500. So this is based on an annual allocation from 2022 to 2024. TASA, the Transportation Alternative Set-Asides, is not a grant. These funds are provided on a cost reimbursement basis. 20% local match requirement is required. In the past, that has been cash. The federal government has said that, in-kind is going to be permitted. We have a meeting next week on the 27th. We're going to ask that question. They're meeting with the different MPOs because that's a requirement the federal government has that it can be in-kind. So we want to find out if at the local process, the MPO process, if we could also allow in-kind. The eligible entities may submit more than one project. So for example, the city of Laredo may submit for more than one project. And then we're thinking of the MPO staff is going to review the eligibility and the application completeness. In the past, MPO staff has pretty much evaluated, scored it, and then provided the recommendation to technical and policy committee. What we want to do this time around is create a subcommittee of MPO staff, active transportation, and technical committee members to help evaluate the projects and provide a recommendation to this committee for final selection. And we've been working through these guidelines through our active transportation committee. We've gotten feedback from them as well. One of the areas where we got feedback from the committee was on the evaluation criteria. And I believe actually it was Dr. Marta Martinez that mentioned that health should be one of the criteria that we look at. So we have improving safety, reducing barriers, promoting health, implementation of an existing plan, connectivity, access to jobs, project readiness, which will be important, environmental benefits, something that's actually that we need to evaluate these projects on based on the federal guidance is serving disadvantaged areas. We need to take that into consideration.
Judge, may I make a
Judge, yeah.
Absolutely, I'll go ahead.
I have a question. So, well, actually, I have a suggestion, and I don't know if I'm misunderstanding, but for example, on Shiloh, when you, where the Gateway Health Clinic is, there's a bus stop across the street, and so people will try to take the bus to get to the clinic, but then they have to cross Shiloh, which is a very busy road. Would a crosswalk or some kind of mechanism to allow people to get from the bus stop to the health clinic qualify for something like this?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
The only thing the applicant would have to be the city or the Metro or, as the MPO, we're the ones selecting the projects. So the submittal would have to come from a different entity.
So through
Would be
the
one of
city,
our
we would submit that request, and then the MPO would decide on that?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, maybe we can talk afterwards on how to do that.
Judge, if I can, yes. So I guess just wanted to clarify, what is the difference between, I'm looking at the evaluation criteria, right, between implementation of existing plan and project readiness?
Yeah, so the implementation of existing plan, we're looking to see if this project has been called for before in our long-range plan, in our active transportation plan, something like that. The project readiness is really, it's something you can construct within the next 3 years, right? Do you have pretty much everything ready to go? Maybe you have funding that you can leverage. That would be the difference there. And we're still working these out a little bit more with staff and the Active Transportation Committee. So now I'll show you the timeline that we have to bring this back to you all. But, I mean, we're open to suggestions here. If you have any suggestions on that, or if you think we can merge that, we can also do that.
So Sada,
It's not final.
I guess if you can help me, I know on these projects, I get these funds, what is the timeline? Because they do have a timeline, right, that they have to get allocated and what timeline are we working with?
Yeah, that's what we're usually looking at, 3 years. So usually it's the funding. So for example, the funding that we're getting allocated in 2022, we have 3 years to use that funding. So if there's a project that's ready to go in 2023, that funding will be obligated for that. So that's going to help us with that 22 allocation.
Right, so that's the reason why I bring it up to everyone, right? We have 3 years, but that doesn't mean we have to wait 3 years to spend it. We could spend it the very next year. So
Correct.
that project readiness to me is probably very important. The sooner we can get it implemented, the better.
Yeah, we're creating weights for this and everything. And, we'll go through the Active Transportation and Technical Committee to, have a final say on those weights, see if that's what we want, right? Or which weights we want. But I keep hearing again, project readiness is a big one. I think last year we had project readiness, or last time we did a call as a bonus, but I think this time will just be one of the primary factors.
We would just go through maybe the engineering department to send to you the projects that we think could qualify?
We're gonna put together an application, and we're gonna have some workshops, and I'll mention that around this timeline. In the past, Environmental Services has been one applicant, El Metro has been another applicant, the Engineering Department, so they're familiar with the process.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And I'm just gonna mention real quick some milestones that we have to come back to the committee. So our idea was to present the final draft guidelines to the Active Transportation Committee next Wednesday. So we're working towards that on July 27th. Then to the Technical Committee on August 9th. Our hope was to bring back the final draft to the committee next month's meeting. I spoke to Ms. Garza, and I know she did mention that since we're updating the guidelines, FHWA needs to look at them. So it's gonna depend on, the turnaround for them to tell us that we're okay with our guidelines, but we're still gonna go to Active Transportation, Technical Committee, and then depending on the time that FHWA takes to review those guidelines, we'll come back here either in August or September with that, for you all to be able to approve those guidelines and authorize the funding amount. And then what we're planning to do after that is hold workshops for potential applicants, the school districts, the city, right? And then have the application deadline. Here we mentioned, we're looking at October 21st, 2022. That's feedback that we're asking for too, especially with people like from the technical committee that have applied for this before. May say, may need a little bit more time, or they think that's gonna be fair. Again, if we don't come back to you till September, then I'll move to November. And then we would review applications as staff and the evaluation committee. And our hope is to bring the final selection to you all for consideration in December or January, depending on the FHWA, their review. I just want to make sure that you all were aware of this program, right? Important thing is for the different stakeholders, potential applicants to know. So that's why we like giving these presentations too. That way they know this is something that's coming down the pipeline.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Appreciate it. Mr. Chavez, I believe you're up. Item 5C, update of the City of Laredo engineering staff on the FM 1472 Flecha Lane realignment and Colton Road grade separation projects.
Do the same thing. It's the titles, so it look kind of similar.
Put it up on the screen. Honorable Chairman and members of the MPO, Ramon Chavez, City Engineer. We will be providing an update as it relates to the realignment of Fletcher Lane and Calton Road grade separation. And I have Gloria Perez Saavedra from our staff, who's our project manager, be providing the update.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Gloria Perez Saavedra. I'm gonna give you the report for the realignment of Flecha Lane, Las Cruces Drive along Mines Road. Last time we were talking about environmental, we, with our consultant, KAC, formerly known as CEC, they confirmed that the Biden's administration reversed the policies of the environmental. So saying this, we're gonna have to meet with the consultant, and we're trying to meet next week to discuss the option to submit a pre-construction notification and the mitigation plan with a request for preliminary jurisdictional determination to the Corps of Engineers. Mr. John Porter was in contact last year, back in 2020, in June 2020, with the Valley Land Fund located out of McAllen for the conservation easement opportunity, and this company showed that they are interested in partnership with us.
And this is, Judge,
Yeah, absolutely.
this is one of the reasons why I think having a mitigation bank is so important. And that's why we recommended to have a portion of North Central Park become a mitigation bank, because we're able then to offset the damage that's happening here with this mitigation bank. And I think we're already working on that plan, and so hopefully we're already like pushing down that road. And so we should be able to switch that up. As long as we are able to give this land in trust, then we should be able to continue with this project, correct?
Correct, yes, and that's why we're gonna meet with the consultant next week. So we're gonna have like our agenda of the points of discussion. Because Mr. John Porter contacted the company 2 years ago. So we just want to confirm they are still on board, and if they confirm that they are, then we're coming to City Council with a joint agreement between the Valley Land Fund and the City of Laredo.
Yeah.
So yes, we're working on that. Also, we want to discuss with the consultant any changes in reference of the construction plans, specifications, cost estimates, just to make sure that we're in compliance with the updated text of requirements. In reference to the real estate,
Pricing's changed.
That's exactly right.
Go ahead.
thank you.
I'm sorry, did you say you needed to get a new Fonzie? Did I hear you say that earlier?
A new what, I'm sorry?
Fonzie for the,
Oh, no.
okay.
We just want to update our cost estimate.
And the mitigation plan, what are they, there, cause the creek there in the back, they're requiring you to offset, but what are you displacing? You're just moving the alignment, so you'll remove swap one, no?
Oh, well, it's because we have some portion that is abutting the floodplain. So because of that,
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
you're not still part of the
determined as
floodplain.
water of the US. So we need to have another property for a mitigation land
Yeah.
and plan. Yes. In reference to the real estate, we're still going into the condemnation process with Las Cruces, 8111 Las Cruces from JNR Gun Investments LTD. So it's in the works. The other project is Carlton Road, grade separation and roadway widening. On this one, our last report was that the consultant was working with the comments received from Texta for the 90% submittal. So we were almost at the end, and then we received a recommendation from Texta staff that if we were interested in looking into changing some elements of the design, going from steel beams into pre-stressed concrete beams. And we will have a substantial savings. So because of that, we asked the consultant to go back and analyze what Texas was recommending to us. They provided an amendment. It's going to be amendment number 12. We reviewed it and we provided some comments, and they're working on our comments. So if at the end we see that it is a substantial savings, then we're going to City Council and TxDOT to recommend approval of the redesign. And basically what is gonna happen is with these pre-stressed concrete beams, we're gonna have less clearance under the overpass. So we had to make sure that the Union Pacific Railroad Company is in agreement with this change in the clearance, that we meet their requirements. So we're in close communication with them at the same time.
How long has this project been going on?
I know, we were so close to God forbid.
You're gonna save them money, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Inflation
we're
has taken
studying.
care of that money a long time ago.
Yes.
Can we get an update on this, maybe in 2 meetings from now, just so we can kind of keep this
So we have-
fresh too?
These updates are being provided quarterly, as the committee had requested before. So it was their turn to present again, so we're doing it every quarter.
Okay.
If that's okay.
If I may, I think, do we have an update on the road? I know, so the project, so one portion obviously is getting the PSNE, getting all the design right, but the other deal is actually having the railroad agreement, right, with KCS? Union Pacific, I'm sorry, P?
Yes.
So where are we at on that? Yeah.
Yes, on that one, they do have, well, we had the draft agreement, but since it's kind of old, right now they're working in revising what they have to comply with their new requirements that we were informed. So they say, since we're gonna be changing the clearance under the overpass, we have to submit our plans approved by TxDOT. As soon as we get the approval from TxDOT, we have to submit it back to them. They have to review that everything is in compliance, and then they release the agreement.
Because they gotta be able to clear the double-decker container.
Correct.
I guess, Ms. Aveda, I think the question Tito was asking was the road agreement, the current status of that, has it been approved, the current clearance right now, or are we pending that as well?
We're pending that. Yes, because they're not gonna be able to give us the final agreement until they receive the approval from TxDOT about the 100% submittal of the construction plans.
Anything that we can do, Texas as a whole, to try to get that permit accelerate a little bit, feel free to reach out to us, maybe we can lend you a hand.
Okay, thank you for your
Please
help.
do that. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, if right now our schedule has changed, the environmental revaluation, that one was approved back in May. We had the project letting by August of next year, and the finalizing of the construction phase services by August 2025. That right now is our schedule for this project. And then in the real estate, we are going to have a mediation with Crown Enterprises next week, Tuesday, July 26th. And that's what I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Appreciate you very much.
On that note, since our schedule gets changed, we'll probably have to bring back an item to amend the tip, just to change that date.
Okay. While you're at it, you might as well just finish off the director's comments.
Director's report, yes.
Dictator's comments.
So, yeah, thank you, Judge. So we have an update on the MPO process review. That's basically the review we've been undergoing with the TTI and the restructuring of the MPO. So we had approved language to this committee a few months back on amending the planning agreement. That has been reviewed and accepted by TxDOT. They forwarded that. We still need to execute it here at the city, and for TxDOT also needs to execute that, but the language has been accepted. Right now, the step we're at, we finalized the MOU that I had mentioned we're working on. That has been forwarded to city management. Their legal team is reviewing that as well. So we're discussing that, and hopefully we'll be bringing that forward here soon. And then on June 30th, MPO staff met with the consultants working on the TxDOT's US 83 corridor study. The consultants were interested in learning more about how the MPO prioritizes and scores projects in our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So this meeting was also an opportunity for us as staff to share information on the needs and future recommendations along that US 83 corridor within the Laredo region. So I know there's other stakeholder meetings that are going to be started based on that study. And it's a year-long study. They're just getting started right now. So as more information becomes available, we can provide that. And I did want to mention something that was not directly in my report, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but Mr. Hinojosa, he was a planner with the MPO. He took on a new opportunity, so we are going to have a vacancy with the MPO, but he's still going to be very involved because now he's working for TxDOT, so he's still going to be involved, and you're still going to see him here at the meetings. So our loss was their gain, but so just wanted everyone to be aware of that. And the upcoming meetings, our Active Transportation Committee is on July 27th, 2022, next week. Planning Committee, August 9th, 2022, and then our Policy Committee meeting, August 17th, 2022. Are there any questions?
Yeah. I was gonna say, do we have any lettings this August?
Anyway,
That's more for David. Do we have anything letting this August for the 2023,
I think all our lettings have been done for the year, August 23. Is there a seal coat through maintenance that's happening right now, Tito?
That's letting in August,
Oh,
Major,
wait, you said August 23, I mean, you said 23, so that's August.
August of 2023 would be next August.
But I thought this August is the 23 funds.
Oh, no, so September, the new fiscal year starts every
September 1st.
September. So September 1st, 2022 starts FY '23. Yeah, that's the way it works. So the fiscal year starts in September. Kind of,
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
when HR Ruthinger will let?
Ruth Char will let.
This-
In
fiscal
August-
year-
in August
fiscal
of 23.
23, August,
August of
23.
2023, not the fiscal year 23.
actually
What-
fiscal year 23.
What it is
Well,
fiscal year,
it is, yes.
it's the last month of the fiscal year.
yes.
Not fiscal year 23, no.
Very
Fiscal year
know what date is
23,
today.
calendar, August 23.
Yes.
But, so is there any lettings this coming August?
This coming August.
2022.
22, August 22, we may have some small rehab projects, mill and LA seal coats, but nothing major as far as mobility wise. More preventative.
Yeah, we have some off-system bridges as well that we coordinate with Webb County with, we got some off-system bridges as well. in Webb.
Very good.
And I just want to make, there one more comment, on Highway 83 north of the checkpoint, beautiful paved job and everything, paint some, not so good, but the merge lane merges right at the crest of the hill. And so I had somebody freak out and cut me off
Are you talking about the hill close to a
just past the checkpoint.
prominent person's residence, or is it beyond that? We're gonna have to judge it.
I don't know
Not on 83 though, on 30, you said 35 or 83?
no, 83.
So, 83, if we're thinking about the right super elevation, we actually have the project manager of the project sitting in the audience today. So we did have a little bit of a snafu on the striping, but it is being corrected. There's a corrective action for it, probably addressing.
but
that.
He's saying past the checkpoint.
Past the checkpoint, the merge lane,
Passing 44?
passing for, yeah, I think you're past 44.
No, because, no,
before 44?
it's before 44.
Oh, yeah, before 44. Like I said, as soon as you crest the hill, as soon as, that merge lane stops. And so that person got over the hill, and then they thought no more road, so they just kind of.
So we will definitely look at it, Commissioner Gayla.
It either needs to be extended or shortened.
I'll follow up with a conversation. I know we had a snafu out there that we're fixing. I'm not sure that's it, but I will definitely look into it and get back to you tomorrow.
But they did a beautiful paved job there.
Can't wait for mine to be.
I like
2027.
expansion.
Hey, I'm just waiting on Botines, they haven't even finished Botines.
She's right there, the project manager.
And,
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Very good, second, any opposed? Motion carries, thank you.
thank you.
They're